Hello YouTube, this is Bruno. Are you scared of the nether? Did you ever want to explore the nether without any nagging mobs around? Maybe you want to loot a bastion or a fortress. Well, in the bastion you can't have complete peace and quiet because some of the mobs are pre-generated, the piglin brutes and some others, so these will still be around. However, you can loot a fortress without any mobs except for blaze spawners. And the secret, of course, is that we have a mob switch. That means there is some point in the nether where we have spawned enough mobs so that the mob cap for this dimension is filled. And it's a warden mob switch. And I will tell you how to create this one. Minecraft thinks it can spawn no more mobs. That means the mob cap has to be filled. In this case we have 91 mobs with only one player in the nether. And one way is to have these mobs in lazy chunks, which is usually chunks that are kind of partially loaded, but not fully. But the mobs still count, but won't despawn because they are too far away from the player. And IanX04 did a very good video on how to create this. However, if you get near these lazy chunks, these will despawn. And the other thing is that if you load these lazy chunks using a chunk loader, the mob cap will be full for all of the nether. There are two different ways how you can set up this mob switch. One is without chunk loading it. And this means you will have protection against newly spawned mobs only if one player loads these wardens, so is within simulation distance. And this is what we chose here, because over there we have a nether hub. And we want to create several spots where we have hostile mobs. Basically any player within 250 blocks of the nether hub will be protected. But if we get further away, hostile mobs will still spawn, and this also means that farms will work, so you don't have to turn off the mob switch to go into your gold farm. You could, however, also add a chunk loader to keep these mobs permanently loaded, regardless of whether a player is in the vicinity or not. And this would give you protection in the nether, regardless of where you are. And I believe, at least for the nether, a warden-based mob switch is the one that the easiest is to do if you don't want to use lazy chunks. If you use lazy chunks, you can use any mobs, but if you don't use lazy chunks, you need mobs that don't despawn if the player is more than 128 blocks away. And this is true for shulkers, this is also true for zombie villagers, but it's also true for wardens. And wardens will despawn only if they are no longer angry, but here we have a little noise machine, so the mobs are all the time angry and they won't despawn on their own. So in this video I will show you how you can create such a mob switch, and in this case we wanted the mob switch in a specific position, so I had to move the mobs a bit. It's actually easier if you just can pump them from the ancient city into a holding chamber here. And for short distances, such a lava channel is probably the easiest way. But if you want to use longer distances, there are other options that I will cover in a different video. The principle of this mob switch is very simple. Here we have a portal, and the other side of the portal is in an ancient city, and we spawn in wardens. Here we have a noise machine that we can turn on. And this is one of the things I learned when handling wardens. Always make sure that you can turn on and turn off everything that you want to turn off or turn on from a distance that is safe from the wardens. So this is more than 16 blocks. And we have a second portal which connects to a chunk loader. So if we turn this on, so this is the usual chunk loader by dark. And we go into the overworld here. Personally, I like to have the safety feature that this is safely out of the way of anything. And down below is the portal that spawns the warden. And this device was designed by Madman2572. I will link a video from the archivist that describes it. So here we have a naturally generated shrieker. It's not one that we have placed, so it can spawn wardens. And the shrieker reacts to this arrow here. And a player can spawn a warden only once every 10 seconds. I have shot the arrow, the shrieker reacts to me, so I will have spawned this warden. And this is a clock. After exactly 10 seconds we have the next noise. The original concept is from Ilmango, who used an exact 10-second clock, but we can also use a shorter clock as long as a multiple of it is 10 seconds. I believe this clock is 2.5 seconds. So we spawn a warden, then the clock activates after 2.5 seconds, then after 5 seconds, 7.5 seconds, and exactly 10 seconds. So it spawns the next warden as early as possible. And the only way a player could trigger a warden would be if the player activates a skulk sensor in exactly the same game tick, which is very, very unlikely. And this system runs without a player around, so we just need the chunk loader to activate it permanently. If you just want a protection, you wouldn't have this portal. The wardens can spawn in an 11 by 11 area. They will select the topmost block. In this case, all of the blocks are covered with water, so the warden can't spawn here, except in the portal. So all of the wardens that spawn will be sent to the nether, and because the game makes 20 attempts to spawn a warden, the chance that it succeeds is actually over 85%. You could add a second portal and increase the chance to 98% if you want. But even if you use just one portal, you will get on average one warden every 12 seconds or so. And here you can see what happened in the meantime. Now the wardens come out of the portal, almost one warden every 10 seconds. They are attracted by this noise machine, but then they push each other, and also we have a lava stream that pushes them. So the wardens are eventually pushed over until they are in reach of this noise machine. And I actually did a mistake. I should have made the entry one block higher so that they reliably push each other in. But yeah, I don't want to go near there, at least not right now. So at one point we just turn off the chunk loader. Then the overworld will be loaded another 15 seconds, so we might get 1 or 2 more wardens, but after that the system shuts down. And then we just go down, turn off the noise machine. So they have sniffed me, but no problem, we can get out. If you want a bit more safety, you can make this redstone line a bit longer. And now the wardens won't fight the lava anymore. They will be just pushed towards this noise machine. And eventually a few more wardens will be pushed in here. And the wardens are pushed into lava. Lava doesn't hurt them. Then they're pushed into the scaffolding. And the scaffolding, surprisingly, won't burn, even if it is directly on lava. But it prevents entity cramming. So we can have as many wardens in here. There they go. And you can have 100, 200, 500 wardens in there, as many as you like. A few more things. We have a safety feature here. This is a dispenser that contains a block of powder snow. And this is also a dispenser that I can activate from a safe distance. So if I ever want to kill the wardens in here, I just have to press this button here. And the dispenser will dispense powder snow. Now it will take a while, because powder snow kills rather slowly. But it will kill the wardens all the same. And we are not in a hurry. A better design would be to be able to turn off the noise machine, because this will also lead to the wardens just despawning because they can't hear anything and they're no longer angry. But in any case, you want at least one method to kill these wardens if you want to get rid of them. Also, there are a few more safety features that may not be apparent immediately. First off, all noise machines are more than 30 blocks from the nether roof. And if we make a mistake and the wardens fall down to the nether roof, they won't hear the noise machine. At some point, they will despawn unless they hear something. And the only thing they could hear are the mobs down there, if the mob switch is not initialized yet. But then I would just have to go to the build limit, build this up to level Y255. Then I would stay on top. All the mobs in the nether would despawn. And the wardens that are here on the nether roof will despawn after a while. Now, there's one downside to the warden mob switch. Apart from the fact that wardens are sometimes a bit difficult to handle. They look as though they're having fun here, right? Anyway, wardens are a bit more laggy than shulkers. Shulkers are easily the most lag friendly. So if you are concerned about lag, I believe a warden creates about 3 times as much lag as a shulker. But on the plus side, the warden mob switch can be built pretty rapidly. There's not a lot of building to be done. And as a bonus, you get a system that allows you to explore ancient cities, which is something that I typically do anyway. So from there, it's not a lot of effort to extend this to a mob switch. This is the world download, which has a few small improvements. I realized that it's a bit better to use full blocks because wardens won't get stuck as often here at the entrance to their little holding chamber. Also, the termination switch will also activate the noise machine. The world download also contains a second chunk loader, which allows you to keep the mob switch loaded without producing any new wardens. If you turn on this chunk loader, it will load these wardens in a lazy chunk. So it's exactly 2 chunks away from the wardens. And this means the mobs will be loaded, but are not ticked. They do not create any lag. And The wardens will be loaded and count against the mob cap for all of the nether, regardless of where you are. You can be thousands of blocks away. And if you turn this chunk loader off, then the wardens have to be loaded by the player. You will have the mob protection only if you are within load distance of these mobs, which in single player depends on the simulation distance, and on server is usually something like 8 to 10 chunks. And the system is pretty cheap actually. So here are the materials for a rather minimal system. So this is what you need for the chunk loader, a bit of obsidian, very few components. In the nether, this depends a lot on how far you want to move the wardens. So basically all of these observers and pistons are for the noise machines. So this system here just uses 2 observers on 1 sticky piston and another normal piston. The overworld is laughably cheap. You need an infinite water source and just these components here. And as a utility, it helps to have an elytra. It helps to have plenty of scaffolding. You probably want a hoe with a silk touch, a few building blocks. Now this is the bow if something goes wrong, if you have to kill a warden. And there's another bow that you will use to shoot in the arrow. This bow can't have infinity. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you want to see more content like this. There will be a second part about warden transporting. Also, if you want a full block by block tutorial, please leave me a comment. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.